Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Ermenkov. I'm a ruling reality coach, and today I'm continuing my series, Ruling Reality as Alex. These are series that I'm going and doing during 2024. So I would like to speak today about egregore reality and how me as a human being am working with these concepts and how I personally am making different egregores that I'm using, and I'm also using the egregores that already exist into our reality in order to move forward, and a lot of things that are dear to me, that are precious to me, a lot of things that I'm focused towards to be used in this reality and to make able a lot of things to be manifested. There is a big paradox in reality that basically whatever we want, whatever we focus, whatever we want to collapse, actually doesn't happen directly into reality, but maybe 90 to 95% of everything that is happening for us, to us, through us, by us, is basically happening through these so-called egregores. And of course, what is an egregore? Some of you can ask, and why should we, the human beings, be considering them? So let me share my screen just for a second to give you a simple example. And of course, every one of you can go into the Wikipedia and see what an egregore is. So egregore from French, and basically the word derived from Greek, and it means the wakeful, or some people are saying that these are the so-called watchers. But what is important, that egregore is a thought form that arises from the collective thoughts and emotion or a distinct group of individuals. There are different definitions. There are a lot of things you can learn about egregores, even from Wikipedia, and a lot of books that are there. But for me, what is important now to show you how I personally am using this organizational thought structure into my own personal reality. And what is important for all of us to understand, that basically egregores are different types of non-visible entities that basically have their own life, their own existence, and this is done because of the human beings. So this is an indirect organizational structures that unites a lot of human beings into supporting a specific manifestational or organizational thing that is able to create things for us. And this is why we, the human beings, have decided to create organizational structures, to create foundations, to create companies. Have you ever noticed that every company needs to be incorporated? Every firm, every manufacturing organization, or whatever it is, it has a non-physical part of it, which is so important. Like the human beings, every company, every organization need to be registered. It doesn't matter if it's a religious organization, if it's an ideological organization. Everything that is working in our reality also need to have its registrations. It need to have some type of a material expression, though it can have also a non-physical and non-material expressions also. In a sense, we the human beings are also like this. Yes, we have been incorporated into this body, but there is a much more bigger part of us that is internal and that is non-visible, which is not exactly the body, but anyhow, it is incorporated and working through the body. So all these so-type called egregores are working through the so-called organizational structures that we, the human beings, have accepted to work with us, for us, and they're all the time amongst us. Let me give you some more examples about egregores in order to come more into why I'm using them in my own personal reality and why this is not something that we should be afraid of, why this is not something that we can go, oh, Alex, this is just esoterical things. These are things that we are not interested in. Just give us directly how you as a human to human are communicating and collaborating, and why we the humans are in necessity to do some other structures that are helping us, and we usually call them that they are civilizing us in a sense. So, for example, a football team is an egregore, a political party is an egregore, and ideological structures that are represented through different parties are egregores, and so on and so on. As I told you, all the companies that more of us are working for and are giving at least 8 hours of our 24-hour cycle into feeding our energy, into feeding our creative energy into them, in order then these so-called organizational structures, these invisible entities that are incorporated into companies, to give us in the end of the month some salaries. So we are trading our energy with these invisible structures in order in the end of month we to receive some goods. Then we have some, let's say, money, our medium of exchange, and then what we do with them, we go into the supermarkets, which are also this type of invisible entities, where all the goods, all the material things are produced, of course, by the humans, but through these organizational structures, companies, and different manufacturing facilities, and so on and so on. So, in a sense, in our reality, we as human beings are working with these intermediates of egregores in order to work with reality. But for example, if I want now to have, let's say, a nice telephone, I'm not going through my thoughts and just envisioning it through a thoughtful process and then it just appears into my reality. No, what is happening, that this thing is going through maybe thousands of processes in approximately 100 companies and manufacturing facilities all over the world, where more than 10,000 or 20,000 people are putting daily their energies in order this small device to be produced for me. And then in order all these devices to be alive and to work for us and to have content and to have applications, maybe billions of people are constantly and daily putting their energies into these devices in order we as human beings to be able to work with them on a daily basis. So we are so interconnected, not only between us as a human beings, but we are interconnected with these egregores. So it's important to know how to work with them, how not to bow down to them, and to think that the goodness in our life comes through them, because basically technology is not the good thing that is happening to humanity, but what is the good thing that more of us, let's say 100,000 or maybe billions of us, are involved into this technology in order it to improve each other's and all our environment, and to be a tool of help in order to be better in communication, in exchange of information, and a lot of other things that are helping us to organize our lives through these organizational invisible structures that are called egregores. And let me go now into the past, when the human beings for the first time started to work with the material environment of the reality we call Earth, and we call nature, and we can call it with whatever names we want. It was impossible for the human beings to move into this reality without understanding about the egregores. And of course, for the first years of the existence, a lot of the processes, a lot of the things that were happening around us were embodied into this type of gods that in a sense are also egregores, because let's say when a lot of human beings are having the same thoughtful processes and are having the same organizational conceptual structures and that are created to help them to move into the reality, a lot of different type of religions, idols, and functional beings expressions are being envisioned as alive in order humanity and the human beings to start working and cooperate with the environment around us, because it is not possible alone, just by ourselves, to create everything around us without using and without organizing our energy together into some type of a conceptual and organizational structural egregores. And of course, in a sense, not only the physical materiality is created like this, because we're multidimensional creatures, even the higher levels of existence also work with this type of structures. And in a lot of religious books, they are described in different ways. And that's why I don't want to go into this area now. I just want to share with you how I'm using on a daily level, on a practical level, these different type of egregores without being afraid, without not knowing what is happening, without being so unconscious about what is influencing me on a daily reality. And for my personal experience, they are neither good nor bad, because I hear and I see that a lot of people are afraid to work with them. And if we go into a position, Alex, we are such strong human beings that we will never use the egregores, we will never even mention them, we will never even see that this type of existence is allowed, and we are going to do everything alone. We are going to work only directly, and we will never going to go and to move through these indirect vehicles that exist into the structures of reality. But for me personally, once I realized, and just let me tell you a story, because I have born during the communism, and then of course everything was indoctrinational, and I was rejecting almost every type of structures, and I thought that everything which is structured, everything that is organized is bad. So there are a lot of us that we think that anarchy is the best possible solution for the human being, because if there are no organization, if everything it has 100% direct, and we are just communicating between us, and everyone is just non-organizational at all, then it is going to be a huge success for humanity. But if we want to be developed, if we want to know how civilization work and why human beings have evolved into civilizational thinking, it is because it is possible to be of help for the human existence and the human development. And also, the interesting thing is that it is allowed to be surrounding us all the time. And for this reason, when I was 17 years old, when the communism fell, and for first time, we as Bulgarians were allowed to have companies. And one of my bigger dreams in these days was that maybe one day I'm going to have my own company. And I started to envision how maybe I'm going to have a business or whatever. I know that for a lot of you, which are Westerners, businesses and companies and private property and all these private structures and a lot of big corporation is something normal. But in our country, they didn't have all these things, and that's why in me arose this desire that maybe one day I can own a company, I can have a company. And for me, it was all the time when I was working for others, I was very interested in all these organizational structures. Why, for example, this person is doing this business, what is business, why this business is working this way or that way. And long term, anyhow, in the last 30 to 40 years, maybe 30 basically, or 33 or 35, what I realized is that little by little I got acquainted to these organizational structures, why they work the way they work, and how it can be of benefit and for the workers and for the owners and for the executives, because maybe half of my life I was a worker and the other half of my life, maybe from 2012, I am an owner. And basically from this time forward, from 2012, yes, till 2024, so it's almost 12 years, all the time people are working for the organization that I am a part owner of. So from this perspective, I was very interested in understanding how and why businesses are working, why these organizational structures are creating value, how to create value, and so on and so on. But basically, once I realized this principle of the egregores, then a lot of things became really clear for me why exactly in reality everything is working through organizational structures. And as some of you know, I'm a Christian, and there are a lot of verses in the Christian literature and in the Christian Bible where we, the Christians, are obliged to be under the organizational structures that already exist. And for example, to honor the kings, to be obedient, and so on and so on, and to recognize and to work with these egregores and these organizational and hierarchical structures that are already in existence, and to not change them, to not revolutionize the structures, and so on and so on, which for me it was an interesting thing, because a lot of people in the modern society which are thinking that it is not necessary, and we are to always be revolutionary, and we are always to be against everything that is in existence. And the interesting thing, of course, about egregores that a lot of people are speaking about, that they are so polarizing. We are all defending some egregores, or we are against some egregores. And because of this, the human polarity is very well helped through the existence of these egregores. But of course, for those that understand how everything is working, they are not for or against. They never defend or conquer egregores, but the only thing that we are to do is to use them to the best of how we are developing and how we are impacting and how we are interacting with the reality that what is given to us. For example, in my own personal reality and in all our realities, the first egregore with which we are acquainted is the so-called family structure egregore, because the basic theory behind egregores is that the human mind, when it comes with another human mind, there is a connection there, and a third or a supermind or a mastermind is born, or a conceptual something else is able to be created. And that's why when 2 or 3 people unite, new ideological structures are created, then they are embedded into organizations, and so on and so on. But anyhow, we know that the basic cells of societies are the so-called family structures, and of course the different type of tribal structures, and so on and so on. But my own personal experiences was with the family structure, then I was in the schooling structure, then I went in the university structures, then I went into working force and the organizational structures in society. And of course, if you ask me, have I ever been a football fan and did I support strongly something specific from these egregorial structures? Basically, I haven't been a big fan to any egregorial structure. When I was in school, for example, I didn't worship the school. I didn't, I was not so interested in hating also. I will give you just one example, because I was a very good student when I was finishing the first grades of our schools, which is the 7th grade in Bulgaria. a lot of the guys that were in the school wanted to beat me, and they said, why you are so not like us? In our school, in our egregorial structures, all of us are mediocre. We are not interested in knowledge. We can only become drivers. Why you are having only excellent marks? Why you are so interested in knowledge, and so on and so on. And they were surrounding me when I finished this high school, and they wanted to beat me hard because I'm so willing to know, and I'm so willing to expand my knowledge. I didn't understand anything, but anyhow, I was not willing to conform to what was, because I was always, in a sense, seeking more than what the egregorial, cultural, and corporate structure was giving me then. Then it was the same that was happening in the middle schools and the high schools. I was learning then electronics, and when I was working with this type of knowledge, it was electronics and software and so on and so on. But I was strongly, in the last years, passionate about business, economics, and it was just the time when the communists collapsed. And I was very interested in understanding another type of world where business is possible to create value for humanity. And that's why in my high school and university, I went to study foreign relationship and economical foreign relationship. And there I studied a lot of things, and I realized a lot of things about how actually business is working. So based on this, I went then into the working force, where also I was not, in a sense, a normal worker, because all the time I was thinking about how these egregores were working, how these organizational and business structures were working, and so on and so on. And it happened even when I entered, for example, the pharmaceutical industry. I was constantly asking myself, well, how is this organization working? Why they have this type of departments? What are the functional structures here? What is happening? And so on and so on. And I was there for 2 years. And then we were invited with one of my friends to help another startup to become a new company. And then we became managers of a new type of in a new type of environment, where we were managers and developing a totally from ground zero company, and we created a very big success there. And in 2012, we actually created our own personal company. And even from then till today, when I'm working with these egregores, we never associate ourselves that this is our job. We know now that everything, all our managerial energies and all our skills and all the workers that we are working together, we are actually feeding daily this egregore. We are feeding daily the structure that is totally separate from the human beings. And this organizational structure is a created egregore, and all of us on a daily basis, based on our attitudes, based on what we are giving to this corporate structure that is created, we are working with this egregore that is into interrelationship with so many big international, multinational type of companies. And this egregore has its own more than 50,000 clients on a daily basis that are using its products. Do I personally use these products of this egregore? Not directly, but some relatives of ours are using these medical products. And based on this, what I realized that in the reality, it is not possible to work without egregores. The government is an egregore. I have a lot of people that are the so-called awakened, that are the so-called spiritual, that hate paying their taxes, that they hate their governments. They think that because of the conspiracy theories, the governments are the bad thing. I don't say that they are not so-called elites, that they are not so hidden agendas, and so on and so on, but the corporate structures and the organizational structures of these egregores, we say, and we call governments. It doesn't matter if it's a local government, if it's a national structure of government, if it's a regional structure like the European Union, which is much more powerful egregore than my own national egregore, which is called Bulgaria, or even if we go on a continental level egregore, or even the mindset of the global, earthly, universal UN or whatever type of organizational structures, government, where we are cohabiting the same planet, is also in a type of egregore. But also long term, from the moment I became Christian, it is the same thing. I didn't feel, because I've never been a religious person and I didn't understand rituals, I didn't understand that maybe there is some specific interrelationship between me and the egregores. So I never went into a deep religiosity type of thinking. For me, everything was alive. The moment I entered into this type of structures, the first thing I asked myself, what are these people lying me? What is the agenda behind this? Why this structure is working the way it's working? Why the religious structures work so much like the companies? Why they work? Why all the other structures? Maybe it is supposed to be different. Why all the structures? It doesn't matter if it's religious, if it's a corporate, if it's a family. Why everything works with so familiar definitions? So basically, I decided to always go to a direct connection with God. So when we work with the source, when we work with our inner being, then and only then is the only time when we don't work directly with the egregores. I don't need a corporate or organizational egregorial structure of church, of religion, in order to have a communication and direct to source connection. And for me personally, this is how Christianity was supposed to work. Of course, I know a lot about history of Christianity. I'm learning much more. I'm exploring. I see how many fights and organizational divisions happens from the beginning. And a lot of people are saying, well, Alex, this is why I don't want to work with egregores. That's why I don't want to go into organized religion. It doesn't matter how you call it. I just want to be alone. Yes, in a sense, only with direct communication with God, it is possible to work without specifically going through the organizational structures, though even in the thoughtful process, there are a lot of things that we are to use as a structural thoughtful principle in order to be able to communicate rightly with what is the beyond, because anyhow, no one knows 100% how everything in the beyond is working and how the beyond is interconnected with what is in the realm of forms and with what is the creation, because there are so many invisible parts of the creation that are not seen and are still organizational and structural parts of the creation, not only the material part. But what I was willing now to share with you is how I'm working also with this egregorial Christianity type of organizational structures. And that's why for me it's okay to be in communication with what all type of humans, because I'm not defending Christianity, I'm not defending specific egregorial structures of Christianity. For me, I'm just telling and expressing to everyone how I'm using specific things regarding this type of egregorial structures in order to help move into the reality. But when it happens to what is behind the scene, what is happening with me in the dark, what is happening with me when I'm alone, when I close my eyes, when I'm before the Creator, and when it's only me and Him, then I'm not using any egregores. But when we wake up and when we are in a conscious state and when we are moving through reality, everything is to be in use. So I was speaking about governments, and for example, I have a lot of people around me that are trying in any way to evade paying taxes, or when they're paying taxes, they are not grateful, or when they're paying for services, they are not grateful. For me, it's different. I'm grateful for the taxes I'm paying. For example, even for the last year, my personal taxes of my family for the income is more than 25,000 euro. Do I complain about this? No, I'm happy that I'm able to pay taxes, because when I'm paying taxes and when I work in a rightful manner with this egregore called the state, called the government, called the taxation authorities, I'm much more open, and there are a lot of new possibilities that are happening for me, and I'm able to work, and I'm allowed to create much more things in the visible area and in the material world, just because I'm in a rightful relationship with these specific egregores. But Alex, for example, if this egregore, if the state decides to destroy you because it doesn't like you, and so on, what are you going to do then? Of course, it is possible, but what is important to know that we are doing our job. And the other thing, if everything and all the different types of agendas are turned against us, still our power is staying into this, that all the time we were complying, in a sense that we were giving what is to the Caesar, we were giving it to the organizational structures, but the important thing, that what belongs to our direct relationship with God, we are giving it to the gods in which we are working with and embodying, and with which we are working into the reality. And that's why I like to work with the state. I like to honor the state. I like to have, of course, more mindful and more rulers of these egregores, and people that are energizing these egregores to be really understanding that this egregore is bigger than the president, it is bigger than all the people that are controlling it, and so on and so on. And in a sense, everything of these structures, if it's long-term created for the benefit of the humanity, it should be staying in this way. And whenever these type of structures are not doing this job, it's not mine responsibility to destroy them, to work against them, to go into a revolutionary state, to be the resistance, and so on. For me, it is important, whenever I make and with whatever strengths I have, to move forward into my own personal flows and agendas, and to see how they are able to manifest and to impact everything that is around me, instead and in spite of all the egregores that are already created long before me, long before all the living human beings that are right now inhabiting this realm. So, in a sense, a lot of egregores are much more eternal and much more long-term beingness, like presence in this reality, than me and you. But still, we have the rulership over them, in the sense that we are the one who are to decide which egregore, how to energize, to what extent to energize, and how, in the same time, to be separated from them. And why I'm just telling all these stories, because I want to give you an examples of how I'm using in my daily reality these concepts, first very seriously. Secondly, I know that me as a human being, I can enhance my ability more than 100 times if I'm able, in a sense, to work and to use the different type of organizational structures that are here and that exist in order for all of us to be able to move forward and to expand our interaction with this reality. I know a lot of us that are just thinking that solipsism is everything, that it is enough only to think, it is enough only to dream, it is enough only to imagine. Of course, these type of things are starting points. But then when we open our eyes, it's not only us, it's not only human beings, it's every type of layers that are above this that already exist. And it is not possible for all of us to destroy them in order we as human beings to thrive. I don't know, but for me, this is first very important that all of us are allowing what is to be. And secondly, once paradoxically we create a space for everything to exist, then everything creates space for us to exist. Once we say no, everything that already exists is working against me, is creating obstacles about me, then I become obstacles for everything, and we come and we are into collision. Because even if you see all the different types of revolutions and everything that humanity was trying to transform and to change, for example, we are so proud that now there is almost no slavery. And if you know, in the old texts, when it was the Bibles and so on, slavery not only existed, but was encouraged. If you are a slave, be a slave. And we say from today's type of thinking, no, Alex, this was so bad. Religion is so bad because it promoted people to stay into slavery. But what is happening with us today? How many of us are daily slaves to these different type of egregorial structures in order in the end of month to have the money and to feed ourselves with the same products that the same structures for which we are working are creating for each of us. I know we are hating the machines, we are hating the AI, we are hating everything that is becoming stronger and more powerful from us, but this is how humanity has been always. We are not the strongest, we are not the most powerful, we are not the most mindful, we are not the most intelligent. But the beautiful thing about the human being is that we are so complex being that through our consciousness, through our collapsing power, through our ability to be created to source, we are able to be rulers of all the different egregores that are in existence. It doesn't matter if we call them bad or good. But now let's go to the dark side of the egregores. You can say, but Alex, do you know how the voodoo religion is creating so much negative type of thoughtful structures that are destroying humanity? Do you know how so much fighting, so much collision, so much wars are happening because these egregores, if we destroy the egregores, if they stop to exist, and only one huge, big, and mighty egregore is there that is so objective, that is so close to the artificial intelligence, that understand the humans more than the humans understand themselves, maybe then we are going to be so perfectly enslaved into thinking that this one big integrated that is absorbing everything egregore is going to create the world peace, is going to give us the eternal happiness that we so much desire. Have you ever wondered why, when the human beings decided, according to the biblical story of the Babylon, to be united together, and why that God said that if these people are so united, they can really reach heavens. Nothing can escape from their imagination. Everything that they desire to create, to egregorize, to organize is going to produce so much strong impact that they are also possible to reach heaven. Let me divide them into different nations. Let them not understand each other. Let collision become and begin between the different humanity type of thinkings and concept that were in a possibility and ability to be united. Do we know why this separation was created? I know a lot of people that hate nations. They said, Alex, why these nations were created? Why are we not so united? Why we are not so interconnected so that all of us can just thrive together without having nationalities, without having regional interests, without having these geopolitical interests? Why should some people have some countries have all the resources? Why the other countries should strive so much? Why some countries are put into such a land that they will always be poor? Why such countries have so much geostrategical positionings, and so on and so on. And we can go into this why thinking as much as we want, but the interesting thing is to speak more and to think more and to contemplate more about why the balance is created when there is so many counterbalancing forces that are working in the moment. Of course, do I say that long term it is the perfect solution for the existence and for the reality? Of course, long term it is not, because anyhow everything is constantly working, and even without us it is in a transformational state, and what is to be in the future is not what is today, not only in the long term, not only in the short term, but in the internal processes. Everything is in a transformational and changing states, and we are going to enter a totally new organizational thoughtful structures and whatever type of thinking, where more directness is going to be, more openness is going to be. But now we are not into these states. From the moment we are in the states that we are to accept and to work with whatever is. And of course, we can dream, we can hope, we can know that one day the structural existence of reality is going to be different. But of course, a lot of us are working with the short term, where we think that only our lifespan is what is important. And we don't think 400, 500 years from now. We don't think eternity spans, what is going to happen after ages of eternity, and how everything is going to be transformative then. And of course, a lot of us say, hey, Alex, we understand now. This all type of religious thinking is just willing to deviate us from what is important. Now is important all the structures, everything to be aligned to what I want, and everything to be made to the best of humanity right now. It is not working like this. It is not what is in the moment. And the beautiful thing, and what I work with, and how I'm personally working with my reality, is that I always accept what is in any moment as the perfect for the moment I'm experiencing. Yes, I have hopes. Yes, I'm dwelling into the expressions and willingness to know more of what is to come. But meanwhile, I'm grateful and thankful for what is right now. So this is a little small talks about egregores and how I'm using them in my daily reality. And be sure I'm using them a lot, and be sure I'm learning more and more how to outgrow them, how to be independent of them. Even the egregores that I personally am creating, I'm always envisioning myself as a being outside and independent of the egregores, I am also creating and evolving with my energy, my support, my life forces, and so on. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your reality. I encourage everyone to rule its reality like Alex, just because I see the benefits for me. And I can share that they are immense. Bye-bye.